Hi, thanks so much for joining us. My name is Tara Hawley. I'm the Scholarships Manager here at the Fulbright Commission. Today, I'm just going to give a really brief overview on the Fulbright program and the high-level categories of scholarships that we have on offer. So this webinar is really a great starting point if you know a little bit about Fulbright, but not too much, and if you're just not sure what sort of scholarship could be right for you. Check out the suite of other webinars that we have available that'll talk more specifically about different scholarships in greater detail. But take a listen to this one first, and by the end you should have a good understanding of the program and what type of scholarship would be best for you and where to find additional information. The Fulbright Commission promotes educational and cultural exchange between Australia and the United States in order to enhance mutual understanding and strengthen relations between the two countries. As the leading scholarship program between Australia and the United States, the Fulbright name is synonymous with academic excellence, thought leadership, and mutual understanding, and reflects the uniquely deep bilateral relationship. Now, the Fulbright program was established in 1946, and it has a really interesting history. There was a US senator by the name of J. William Fulbright, and at the end of World War II, he had this really interesting idea, and he thought that if people understood each other, person to person, culture to culture, then it would reduce the likelihood of something like World War II ever happening again. So he took this to the United States government and with an idea to sell off any surplus World War II materials, and those the funds that were made could be used to fund an exchange program. So now it's been running ever since then. So here in Australia, we're nearly in our 70th anniversary. And about 160 countries all have this wonderful exchange program with the United States. So we're one of many commissions across the world. So we work with Australian citizens wanting to undertake a scholarship program in the United States, and we also receive Americans here in Australia. Now, since 1949, we've had about 5,000 alumni, both Australians and Americans, and we're very incredibly proud of that history. This slide here is just talking about some of the Fulbright values that we look for, not only in the types of projects that we fund, but really the types of people that we fund. So the Fulbright program isn't just interested in a great project statement, which of course is really important, but we're looking for these values within our applicants as well. So when we read an application or when we talk to an applicant, we're looking for people that are really passionate about what they're doing, people that have a vision, not only for themselves, but for their community and also for their discipline. We also look for demonstrated achievement. So we look for excellence, which can be displayed both in the project statement, but also in your CV, which can be attached to an application. And we're looking for creative, inspired thinking. So we're looking for projects that are innovative. And the last two there, we're looking for applicants or scholarship recipients that really display the capacity to create long-term collaborations and linkages, both between Australia and the US. And lastly, we're looking for people that display ambassadorial skills. So if the whole purpose of the program is to create mutual understanding and real people-to-people understanding, then we're looking for people who can represent Australia whilst in the US and represent the Fulbright program. Now, just to talk a little bit about the types of categories of scholarships that we have available, I'm going to come back to the postgraduates because I have a slide following that will cover that. But one of the categories of scholarships that we have are for postdoctoral scholarships. Now, these are for individuals who have completed their PhD in the past 5 years and are looking to undertake postdoctoral research in the US and want to go for a period of anywhere between 3 and 10 months. Now, postdoctoral scholarships will include a living allowance, which is pro rata for the amount of time that you go, some international return flights, a dependent allowance if that is relevant, and also a range of other things like visa support, access to alumni and orientation program, and more. Now, we have postdoctoral scholarships that are available in what we call the general category. That means that we have 2 or 3 available each year that are just in any field or discipline. There's also a number of sponsored ones available on our website that you can also elect to be considered for. So this means, for example, that RMIT University has a scholarship with us, and it is sponsored for someone that's in one of their priority areas of research, but it's funded by RMIT, and it's also a part of a postdoctoral fellowship position at RMIT. So what would happen if you were a postdoctoral scholarship applicant? You would apply just in the general category, but then you'd also elect to say, well, actually that award at RMIT or another one at Deakin really suits what my project and what I'm all about. So you can elect to be considered for additional awards. This is super handy because it means that you can be considered for 2, 3, 4, 5 different awards within one application without having to submit 5 different applications. The next category is Scholar Awards. Now, this is available for 2 different types of applicants. The first is for academics who are at either the associate professor or full professor level, or it's available for mid-career professionals who have at least an undergraduate degree and 10 years work experience in their particular field that they're hoping to go to the US to contribute to. Now, both academics and professionals can head over to the US for 3 to 4 months, and they can either undertake a research project or do some professional training in the US. Now, these scholarships include a monthly living allowance. They also include the international return airfare and a dependent allowance if you are taking a spouse or a child with you. And again, the other things included with the postdoctoral scholarship, so access to alumni and an orientation program and full visa support. Now, the last category here is for Distinguished Chair Scholarships. So currently we have 1 Distinguished Chair Scholarship available, and this is for someone who is at full professor level, and they would like to spend 5 to 6 months at Kansas State University, and they're within the fields of agriculture and life sciences. So that one's quite specific, but if you are in the fields of agriculture and life sciences and at full professor level, definitely have a look at this award. It includes a monthly living allowance for up to 6 months. It includes accommodation at Kansas State University. It includes an allowance to undertake a speaking tour across the US, as well as a few other benefits. So please check that one out online if that one is suitable for you. Now, to come back to postgraduates, our postgraduate scholarships are available to 3 different kinds of applicants. The first is you are in the final year of your undergraduate degree and you want to go to the US to complete a full US master's degree. So you want to go over there and complete the whole thing. A second option is you have been accepted to a postgraduate program here in Australia, and you want to complete 1 or 2 semesters of your Australian program in the US. So think of it like a one-way exchange. So you want to complete some of your degree in the US, which can be credited back to your Australian postgraduate program. And the last type is a current PhD student who wants to go and undertake research in the US as a visiting student researcher. Now, with PhD students, please get in touch with us if you want to talk about this a little further to see how it could work. But some PhD students put their official PhD program in Australia on hold for their research time in the US, and some are able to juggle completing both at the same time. But the hope is, as a Fulbright applicant, or the expectation is that you would go during your PhD with enough time that you could include what you have researched in the US back towards your PhD program. So you wouldn't be applying if you'd already submitted your PhD. You want to ensure that there's enough time that everything you're doing in the US can contribute to your PhD program. Now, some wonderful news about our Fulbright postgraduate scholarships, and that is that in the past, we've never offered or been able to offer any tuition funding. So in the past, we could offer living allowance for up to 10 months. We could offer your international flights and full support by the commission, but we didn't have the funding to be able to offer any contribution to tuition. So now what I'm talking about now is relevant to those first two. So whether you want to go and complete a full American postgraduate program or some of your Australian program in the US. Now, from 2018, we are now able to offer tuition funding of up to $20,000 per year for up to 2 years. And what happens when you submit an application to complete a postgraduate program is that you do not need to, in your application, say where exactly you're planning on going. It's great to do research and say I'm in public policy, and I might do some research and look at the top schools that offer postgraduate study in public policy, but I don't need to apply and I don't need to be accepted before I apply for a Fulbright. What you want to do is apply for your Fulbright, and for those that are successful, we work with placement services in Washington, and what they do is they will work with recipients to put together a list of institutions that they should be applying for. They help with the submission of those applications, and they're also able to negotiate some potential fee reductions or fee waivers at those institutions. So whilst $20,000 might not cover a full degree program, for example, at Harvard, it's certainly a huge contribution to that tuition. And if you work with placement services, they might be able to further reduce what the tuition might be. Now, for PhD students, there are some institutions in the United States that charge a visiting student researcher fee. So this could be anywhere from $200 a month to $1,000 a month just for you to be on campus using their resources. So we're now able to offer funding to assist with those, we call them VSR fees. So those are now available, and they've never been available before. So now, of course, it really depends on how. So if you're a PhD student, you can go for 8 to 10 months. If you want to complete some of your Australian postgraduate program in the US, you again can go for up to 10 months. If you wanted to just complete one semester, so that would be a 5-month program or 6-month program, that would also be fine. And if you wanted to complete a full American postgraduate program, you could go for up to 2 years. I'm also very proud to announce that this year we are now offering what's called Fulbright Future Scholarships. Now, this is our most generous scholarship program ever. So this includes a generous living stipend, but whilst in the previous slide I just talked about how we have some tuition funding available, the Fulbright Future Scholarships include full tuition and visiting researcher costs at any US institution. Now, to be considered for these scholarships, you must propose research that's innovative and or has the potential for significant tangible impact. So we're looking for projects that can display impact and something that might be a little bit different or a little bit innovative. Now, they must aim to create, contribute to, or otherwise enhance Australian-American bilateral research / business collaborations. Now, these awards are open across all categories. So whether you're a postgraduate student, a postdoctoral researcher, or looking at as a professional or an academic, everyone can apply for this scholarship. So again, what would happen is you would apply in the general category of your scholarship. So say, for example, again, if I'm a postdoctoral student, I would apply in the general category. Then I would look to see if there are any of the sponsored awards that I might also elect to be considered for. And then lastly, I'd look and say, you know what, my program looks like it would be a perfect fit for Fulbright Future. So I would elect to also be considered for that award. Now, how you do that is alongside the application instructions, which I'll come back to, there is a checklist which you must download and include with your application. So you download that and then you tick off which awards you are eligible for. And then that tells us that you want to be considered for awards X, Y, and Z, and then we'll make sure that that happens. If you don't include that checklist, we'll consider you in the general category, but we won't know to consider you for any of these other amazing opportunities. So make sure you look at all of the different scholarships that we have available. keep track of which ones you're eligible for, and ensure that that's reflected in the checklist, which you can attach to your application. Now, I've covered a lot of the benefits per award, but just to reiterate everything that's included in a Fulbright scholarship, we offer a monthly stipend, which is designed to cover all of your living expenses whilst in the United States. So think that's your rent, your food, your electricity bills, your phone, that sort of thing. We also cover your international return flights. Some scholarships include an establishment allowance, which means a one-time payment before you land in the US that will help with things like paying a bond, those upfront costs that might come up. Some scholarships include a dependent allowance. So that means if, say, for example, you're taking a spouse or you're taking a child with you, there's a one-time payment which will be paid to you, which essentially reimburses you for their travel costs to the United States. As discussed, our postgraduate award funding is available for up to 2 years and will include either some tuition or some visiting student researcher fees, unless, of course, you're applying for the Fulbright Futures Scholarship, which includes full tuition and visiting student researcher fees. All of our scholars receive ASPE health and accident cover, and they also receive access to established professional networks. As mentioned on the second slide, we have 5,000 alumni that have come through our program here. So that means that, for example, if you're going to Boston and you're in the field of arts, we might, if with your permission, we would contact all of our Fulbright alumni that are in Boston and all of our Australians who previously did Fulbright scholarship programs in Boston, and we'll introduce you to them. They're such a great resource, especially to talk to someone that's been in a similar situation than you and had a similar experience to what you're about to. You can get advice on, where to live, what schools should you put your kids into, what sorts of activities should you do outside. They can give you all sorts of great advice and things that perhaps they wish that they had known before they went to Boston. Now, we also can link you with people that are in similar fields. So, for example, my example was if you're in the arts, we can introduce you to alumni that might not be in Boston, but they could be all over the US and all over Australia. But if they have a similar research interest as you, we can link you up. So it's all about connecting Fulbrighters together so you can build up your professional networks. Now, we run an orientation program each year, which we invite our recently announced Australian awardees and our recently arrived American scholars. We bring everyone together for a 2-day orientation program so they can learn more about their scholarship and the Fulbright program more broadly. But more importantly, the 60-odd scholars can all meet each other. A similar program also takes place for Australians when they first arrive in the US, but the great thing about that is you can meet Fulbright scholars from around the world. So Fulbright scholars from China or Austria, they bring everyone together who's going to be in a similar location. So again, you can really build up your professional network. Now, we offer extensive support here at the Commission. So that means from the day that it is announced that you are a Fulbright scholar, you have someone that is keeping you on track with your visa process, with your host institution, getting your flights organized. We really work with you from day one to ensure that you have everything that you need. We take pastoral care quite seriously, so you've always got someone that you can call, whether it's in the lead up to your program or during your program. We're always here to support you. Now, we've talked about what types of scholarships broadly that we have and what they might include. So just to come back to this a little bit, and this will link to the next slide as well, but just consider these things when you're putting an application together. Ensure that you've really highlighted your academic/professional excellence. We talked about ambassadorial skills. Now, that's something that you're going to want to cover in some way, shape, or form. On the next slide, it talks about how you'll need to submit a personal statement as part of your application. So considering that the program is based around the idea of cultural understanding, and I've talked previously about how we look for ambassadorial qualities, it's great to highlight these in your personal statement. We're looking for the relevance of the proposed program. So tell us, why is it important and why does it need to take place in the United States? Always outline what the potential outcomes or impact will be. And just note that as this program is based around the Australian and US bilateral relationship, for Australian scholarships, we can only take applications from Australian citizens, whether by birth or naturalisation. If you have dual citizenship with the US, unfortunately, you are ineligible to apply. If you have dual citizenship with any other country, that's not a problem at all. So unfortunately, if you are a citizen, if you are not an Australian citizen, or if you are a dual citizen with the United States, unfortunately, you cannot apply. If you happen to be listening to this and you are a citizen of another country, please check to see if your home country has a Fulbright program. I mentioned earlier, there are 160 programs operating across the world, so please make sure you have a look. Now, there's no age limit for Fulbright scholarships, and it's open to any field or discipline and any appropriate host institution. So what do you need in an actual application? So the first thing is you're going to want to put together a project proposal. So this tells us what it is that you want to do while you're in the US. But again, think about not only what are you going to do, how are you going to do it, what are the impacts, and why the US as opposed to another country. So you highlight all of that in your project proposal and just make sure it's feasible. I mean, if you're only going for 4 months, just make sure your project proposal outlines what can be done within the 4 months. Even if it's part of a larger project, just make sure you focus on what you plan to do as part of your actual Fulbright. The second thing that you will upload is a personal statement. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is a great place to talk about your ambassadorial qualities, but I like to think of it like this. The project proposal tells us what it is that you want to do. The personal statement kind of tells us why. It tells us about the person behind the research. So why did this person get interested in this particular field? What are some key things that have been a part of their academic or personal journey that have led them to where they are now? What sort of person are they? So make sure that your personal statement isn't just regurgitating what's in your project proposal, but make sure it gives a really good indication of who you are behind your research. Now, these are two things that you will upload as part of your application alongside that's lots of just general information that you'll fill out. You'll also be able to upload your CV. You can do, what else can you include? Project proposal and personal statement CV. And then you can also add in your referee report. So we need at least 2 for your application to be valid, but always aim to get the full 3 in. So what you'll do is you'll jump into the application and you'll type in your referee's details, their name and their email address, and then the application system will send them a link so that they can fill out a referee report confidentially. So you will not see this report. You can log in and see whether or not they've submitted. So please make sure that you're checking to see that they've done it, but you'll not actually be able to see what they've written. So a couple of tips, of course. One, make sure that you're choosing people who are going to say positive things about you. The next thing is fill in their details early. Make sure you've asked them and then check in to make sure they've received the link. Particularly at universities, sometimes the security system can block these automatic emails. So once you've typed in their details, wait a couple of days and check in to make sure your referee has received the link and follow up to make sure they've submitted. The worst possible thing could be if you've put in all of this effort to submit a Fulbright application and then it's ineligible because a couple of your referees just didn't submit in time. And my final tip would be, if you have 3 referees, it's great if you can get people that can say different sorts of things about you. So whilst you might have worked with 3 great people on one research project, for example, if the 3 of them are essentially going to say the same thing, they were really great at this project, it might be better to think about getting 1 or 2 of those referees from either different projects or from your professional life, or just get a good mix of people who can say different sorts of things about you to give our selection committees a better understanding or a whole picture of who you are. Now, if you are a postgraduate student who wants to complete a master's, whether a part of an Australian master's or a full US master's, as mentioned before, you do not need a confirmed host institution. You don't need an invitation or an acceptance or anything like that. But if you are a PhD researcher, a postdoctoral applicant, a scholar awardee, or a distinguished chair, you need to research a host institution and find a place that would be best suited for your project. And then you need them to provide you with a letter of invitation saying that, yes, if John Smith was successful for a Fulbright application, we'd be happy to host him. And this is sort of how we'd like to engage with him. Now, it's great if they can say just that they'd be happy to host you, but you're looking for a little bit more. We like to see in these letters that they put some thought into how they could really contribute to your project. Is it that they can introduce you to a range of researchers in the field that will be quite supportive? Will they create networking opportunities for you? Will they have events for you? That sort of thing. So more than just they're happy to give you a desk and a chair, but a little bit more about how they plan on engaging with you. And of course, you'll need copies of some certified academic documents like your transcripts, which you can attach to the application as well. So applications are open right now. They opened on February 1st, and they'll be open until 11:59 p.m. on July 15th. Now, about 80% of our applications come in between the hours of 8 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. on the day applications close. I highly recommend that you get your application in at least a day or two in advance, just in case something happens with your IT or the application portal or something. Try and give yourself a little bit of a buffer. So you can submit anytime from now until July 15th. Then what will happen is the applicants undergo a technical review here by the commission just to ensure that all of the applications are eligible and valid. And then those applications are sent to two different types of committees. One is a discipline committee that really looks at your project. So people that are within your field will take a look at your project to assess its strength. And then your applications will be sent to our interview committees, who not only look at the project also, but they look at the full picture of the applicant and whether or not they would be a great ambassador for the Fulbright program. Would they be adaptable? That sort of thing. So selected applicants will be invited for interview in late August and then throughout September. And then all applicants, whether successful or otherwise, will receive notification of the outcome by the end of the year. We aim for early November, but just in case there's a delay, just be aware that everyone will find out by the end of the year. Successful scholarship recipients will be invited to attend an orientation program and a gala dinner in March of the following year. So say, for example, if you apply this year and you submit your application before July 15th, you could be interviewed in September. You'll find out if you're successful by December. And then if successful by March the following year, you'll be at an orientation program with everyone else that's been awarded, including all of the Americans that will have recently arrived. Now, successful recipients must commence their program between July 2019 and June 2020. So you've essentially got 11 months to depart for the US. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility in terms of putting your program together. Now, the Fulbright website is the best place to start from here, which is www.fulbright.org.au. So on the pages, you'll see the best place to start is the applicants page. So click on the applicants link at the top left and then go Australian applicants. It gives you all the information that you could need for eligibility, access to the applicant instructions. So with applicant instructions, every country that has a Fulbright program uses the same application portal. So each country might need things slightly different than others. So what we've done is put together a really comprehensive applicant instructions PDF, which you can download from the applicants page. And it's really a step-by-step on how to submit an eligible application. So make sure you take a look at that. Once you're done looking at the applicant page, jump across to the scholarships page so you can look in depth at all of the different awards that we have available. Something I haven't mentioned until now is every state and territory in Australia has their own Fulbright scholarship. So that means, for example, if I am from Queensland, now Queensland has an award that's open to all postgraduates to apply for. So you can elect to be considered for that. And all that you would need to do is include an additional statement with your application that shows what benefits you're hoping to bring back to the state of Queensland, for example. So have a look at the scholarship page, Keep note of all of the different scholarships that you are eligible for and make sure that you include that in your checklist so that we can ensure that you're considered for as many opportunities as you're eligible for. So firstly, go to the applicants page and then go to the scholarships page. Linked on both of those pages are access to our FAQs. Every question that you could think of asking at this early stage is generally covered there, but if you have something more specific to your personal situation, the email's just at the bottom of the slide. On each scholarship page, there are links to the profiles of the most recently awarded scholar of that scholarship, so you could see which programs we've supported in the last few years. There's also an alumni page if you want to go back through the last 10 years or so and take a look at different profiles. There are other webinars, and we'll be posting webinars quite frequently throughout the year, so please check back. We plan on doing ones that are more detailed per category, ones on what makes a strong application, interviewing alumni, all sorts of things, so please check back regularly. Now, in terms of actually submitting your application, make sure, again, you download those application instructions, and then the link to the application itself is within those instructions. So download those, take a look, and then when you're ready, start piecing together your application. Now, we are available to assist with any queries. Our contact email is fulbright@fulbright.org.au. It's really helpful for us if you email rather than call, only because then we can send you links to the relevant information that you might need. So please email first in most cases after you've checked the website. But of course, if you need something quite urgently, our contact number is just at the bottom there. And again, of course, don't forget, applications close on July 15th at 11:59 p.m. So please keep the Fulbright program in mind, take a look at the different opportunities, and get in touch if there's anything that we can assist with. We're also available on social media, so please do look us up on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn just to keep up to date with what's going on in the Fulbright world.